Now let's make the strap. The strap is completed by crocheting a shrimp stitch. After finishing, sew it onto both sides of the bag. Please watch me demonstrate the specific crocheting method. Take out the corresponding color yarn. I will still demonstrate with a sample. Leave about 15 centimeters of yarn tail for sewing. Then make the starting slip knot. After completing it, crochet 1 chain. The foundation chain is now complete. Then make 1 chain as the beginning chain for single crochet. Next, work a single crochet into the foundation chain. Pick up 1 loop from the chain. One single crochet is completed. Then turn the fabric clockwise. You can see there is 1 loop like this on the side. Pick up this loop and work 1 single crochet. Continue to turn the fabric clockwise. You can see there are 2 parallel loops like this below. Work 1 single crochet by picking up these 2 loops with the hook. Then turn the fabric over. Pick up the 2 parallel threads. Make 1 single crochet. Let's take a look at the crocheting pattern from here on. Every time you turn the fabric, pick up the 2 parallel threads and make 1 single crochet. Continue working according to this pattern. Keep going until you reach the desired length. The specific length can be referenced from the chart. You can also adjust it freely according to your preference. Continue crocheting on your own. After you've crocheted to the desired length, simply make 1 chain to secure it. Tighten it. Leave a yarn tail of about 15 centimeters. Cut the yarn. That concludes the strap. Now let's sew the strap. The color and length of my sample are not for reference. Thread the reserved yarn tail at one end of the strap onto a darning needle. Sew on the side of the metal frame ear. You can sew a few times here for extra security. This will make it more secure. There's no specific requirement for the sewing method here, just make sure it's secure. Once completed, weave in the yarn tail. Cut the yarn. That's how one end of the strap is fixed. The other end of the strap should be sewn in the symmetrical position, secure using the same method. Pay attention to not twisting the strap. Complete it on your own. That concludes the explanation of how to attach the strap. After the strap is sewn, let's move on to sewing the ears. Locate the position of the chin on the upper part. It indents slightly here. We will sew the ears on the other side. The placement for securing the ears is below the metal frame. The distance between the two ears should be about 2.5 centimeters. Now let's start sewing. Thread the reserved yarn tail onto a darning needle. Note that the ears should have the right side facing out. First, position them correctly. Then start sewing. There are no specific requirements for this part of the sewing, just make sure it's secure. After securing the top part of the ear, pass the thread from inside the ear down to just below the ear with a bit of distance. You can secure it with 2 more stitches at the bottom. Once done, weave in the ends. Break the yarn. That's it, one ear is now sewn on. Now use the same method to sew on the other ear. This concludes all the parts that need sewing. Leave the arms for now. Set them aside for later use. Up to this point, the main part is completely finished. After completing the main part, we'll now move on to making the accessories. The accessories include facial features, garments, head decorations, bottom decorations, and ribbons. Now let's make the facial features. The facial features consist of eyes, nose, mouth, and blush. First, check the position for the eyes. The bottom of the eyes is roughly aligned with one side of the metal frame. There is about a 2 cm space between the two eyes. Let's glue the eyes first. After the eyes are glued, we'll stick the nose. The top of the nose aligns with the bottom of the eyes. There is a post underneath our nose, so we need to use scissors to trim off the excess part. After trimming it flat, you can glue it on. Stick it below the eyes. Everyone can go ahead and glue both the eyes and the nose. After the eyes and nose are glued, let's make the mouth now. The mouth is below the nose. Here we need to use single strand for sewing. First, take a segment of thread. Pull out one strand from it. Then thread it through the needle. Tie a knot at the end of the thread. Secure the tail on the wrong side. Then draw through from the bottom of the nose. Insert on the left side. Tidy up the shape. Don't pull the thread too tight here. Then insert it to the position on the right side. Insert a little distance below the nose. Adjust the shape. Then weave in the ends. Cut the yarn. To make sure it's secure, use some glue here. There's no need to apply too much. This way, the mouth is fixed well. After completing the mouth, now let's apply the blush. Apply the blush a little below the eyes and on the ears. The depth and position of the blush, you can also adjust according to your preference. Complete this part on your own. Up to this point, we've covered all the facial features. Now let's make the garments. Let's take a look at the finished product. The garments are divided into the main body, the edging, sleeves, embroidery and decorations. Start with the main part of the garments. We will start from foundation chain and work back and forth. Leave out the armhole while crocheting. Below, please watch me demonstrate the specific crochet method. First, chain 2 to start. That's how you cast on. Then move on to the first row. Find the last single crochet. It's right here. Pick up the top loop and make 1 single crochet. That's how you finish the first row. Now move on to the second row. Start with 1 chain. Then turn the fabric over. Crochet 1 SC2 in 1 next. Remember, when crocheting on the wrong side, the stitch is located at the top left. That's how you complete the SC2 in 1. The second row is complete. Now let's start the third row. Chain 1 to begin, then turn the fabric over. Start with a SC2 in 1. After that, continue with 1 single crochet. That completes the third row. Now move on to the fourth row. Again, chain 1 to start. Flip the fabric over. Correspondingly make 2 single crochets into the same stitch. Then do a SC2 in 1. That completes the fourth row. Let's take a look at the pattern here. Every row starts with chaining 1 as the beginning chain. Then turn the work and match the corresponding stitches. Continue following this pattern all the way down to the 29th row. Now let's move on to the 30th row. I'll demonstrate using a sample. The number of rows is not for reference. First, chain 1 to start. Then turn the fabric. Next, work 1 single crochet. After finishing the single crochet, begin crocheting chains. You will need a total of 11 chains here. These chains correspond 1-to-1 with the single crochet stitches below. Make sure to complete the corresponding number of chains. Once done, start from the 12th single crochet stitch. And continue working the remaining 4 single crochets. This completes row 30. Now move on to row 31. Start with 1 chain as the beginning chain. Turn the fabric. Then work 4 single crochets. After finishing the single crochets, you'll reach the chains. Tidy up the chains here. We will pick up the top loop of the chains and start working single crochets. That completes 1 single crochet. Continue working the remaining single crochets. Pay attention to the single crochets on the chains. Should always pick up the top loop of the chains to work. I have now completed the single crochets on the chains. There is only 1 stitch remaining now. Work 1 more single crochet. This completes row 31. After finishing, you can check the stitch count to make sure it matches the chart. From row 32 to row 60, continue working single crochets evenly. Complete this section on your own. Now let's move on to row 61. Here, I will explain the method. The crocheting method here is similar to row 30. Start with 1 chain as the beginning chain. Then turn the fabric over. Work 4 single crochets evenly into each stitch. After that, make 11 chains. Skip the next 11 single crochets below. Make a single crochet in the last stitch. That concludes row 61. These 2 positions you see are where the armholes will be. Let's continue with row 62. The crocheting method for this row is similar to row 31. Start with 1 chain. Turn the fabric over. Crochet 1 single crochet first. Then pick up the top loop of the chains. Work 11 single crochets evenly. Follow with 4 more single crochets. That concludes row 62. No new stitches are used moving forward. Refer to the pattern to crochet the remaining rows. Finish with a SC2 tog. The side you end on is the right side. Up to this point, we have completed the main part of the garment. Now let's move on to crocheting the edging. There's no need to break the yarn here. Start with one chain. You can see there is a gap between each row. We will crochet single crochets into these gaps. There are no specific requirements for the insertion position here. Just keep the fabric flat. Everyone, continue crocheting using this method. We will keep going until we reach the armhole. Now we've reached the corresponding position. We need to decrease one stitch on each side of the armhole. The position for the decrease is approximate here. One decrease is completed. Continue with the other one. After completing the 2SC2 tog, go back to crocheting single crochets into the gaps one by one. Keep crocheting until just before the next armhole. Now we've reached another corresponding position. Similarly, here we need to work 2SC2 togs. The insertion position is not fixed. After completing them, continue crocheting single crochets into the gaps. We will keep going until we reach the top of the left side. Now we've reached the corresponding position again. At the top, we need to work 3 single crochets. Then continue crocheting single crochets into the gaps. While crocheting, weave in the starting tail. While crocheting the edging, it doesn't matter if you make a mistake with 1 or 2 stitches, just keep the fabric flat. Using this method, we continue crocheting until we reach the top of the left side. Complete this part on your own. Now I've reached the corresponding position. Finally, on the corner where the SC2 tog was made, work 3 single crochets. Then join with a slip stitch to the first stitch. Pull tight. Break the yarn. Weave in the ends on the wrong side. That's it for the first round of edging. Now let's edging the front band. Fold the garment in half neatly. Find the position of the 3 single crochets at the corner. Join the yarn at the middle single crochet. Take the corresponding color yarn. Draw the yarn through. Make 1 chain as your beginning chain. Start crocheting single crochets below. Be mindful to weave in the yarn tail as you work. This row is just working 1 single crochet into each stitch. Continue until you reach the corner on the other side. Now I've reached the corresponding position. Find the middle single crochet of the 3 single crochets at the corner. It's this stitch right here. Keep crocheting until you finish with this stitch. After completing, secure with a chain. Break the yarn. Weave in the ends. After completing this row of single crochets, you need to work another row. Keep in mind that the color of the yarn is different here. Take the corresponding color yarn. Here, you need to pick the back loop for crocheting. The strand closer to you is called the front loop. The strand farther from you is called the back loop. It's this strand right here. Join the yarn at the first stitch. Draw the yarn through. Make 1 chain to start. Start working single crochets. Remember to weave in the ends while you work. Keep in mind that for this row, you will be picking the back loops only to crochet. Finish crocheting this row on your own. End with a single crochet. Hook a chain to secure. Cut the yarn. Weave in the ends. That concludes our tutorial for the edging. Now let's move on to the sleeves. Place the garment with the right side facing you. The sleeve on the right is called the right sleeve, and this one over here is the left sleeve. Let's start with the right sleeve. The right sleeve is divided into two parts. The first part consists of two fabrics. They are referred to as fabric 1 and fabric 2. Section 2 is crocheted top of section 1. Pick up stitches and crochet in rounds. Let's start with fabric 1. Fabric 1 begins by hooking into the front piece of the garment. You can see the horizontal bars left from the chains here. First, we need to join the yarn. The method for joining the yarn is the same. Insert the hook under these two loops. Draw the yarn through. Then, make one chain as your beginning chain. Below, in the same stitch, crochet one single crochet. While crocheting, be mindful to weave in the yarn tail. Here you need to crochet 11 single crochets. After completing, you can check if the stitch count is 11. That completes the first row. The excess yarn tail can now be trimmed off. Now continue with the second row. Chain 1 to start. Turn your work. In the second single crochet, make one loose slip stitch. After completing, continue to crochet 8 single crochets correspondingly. There is one last stitch remaining. Finish with one slip stitch. The slip stitches here do not need to be tightened. This will not be repeated in the following instructions. The second row is now complete. Now start the third row. Begin with chain 1. Turn your fabric. Skip the braid of the slip stitch. Locate the stitch of the second single crochet. Start crocheting 4 single crochets evenly. Finish with a slip stitch. Continue to the fourth row. Begin with 1 chain as the beginning chain. Turn the fabric over. Find the stitch of the second single crochet. Crochet 2 single crochets correspondingly. End with a slip stitch. The fourth row is now completed. Secure with a chain. Break the yarn. Weave in the ends. Fabric 1 is now finished. Now let's move on to fabric 2. Flip the fabric to the back piece. You will see that there are 11 single crochets left open here. We will join the yarn at the last single crochet on the far right. The crocheting method that follows is similar to that of fabric 1. Complete the first 2 rows on your own. Now let's work the third row. Start with 1 chain as beginning chain. Pay attention, this chain needs to be loose. Otherwise, the fabric will pucker. Turn the fabric over. Locate the third single crochet. Work a slip stitch. Then work 4 single crochets. And 1 slip stitch. That concludes the third row. Continue with the fourth row. Chain 1 to start. Find the second single crochet. Begin to crochet 2 single crochets correspondingly. End with a slip stitch. Then break the yarn. Weave in the ends. This is what fabric 2 looks like when completed. It's symmetrical to fabric 1. That completes section 1. Now let's move on to section 2. Section 2 is crocheted onto section 1. You need to pick up 11 stitches on each side of the fabrics. We'll start by joining the yarn at the insertion point on fabric 1. Chain 1 to begin. Then work single crochets along the edge. The insertion position here can be random. Just make sure to pick up 11 stitches. Keep in mind the entry positions for the first and last stitches. That is, the insertion points for the first and last stitches of row 1 on fabric 1 and fabric 2. This way, there won't be any gaps in the fabric. Everyone can pick up the stitches and crochet on your own. If the fabric bends a little while picking up stitches, it's fine. It's a normal occurrence. Now I've already picked up the stitches on fabric 1. Continue to pick up stitches on fabric 2. There's no need to crochet in the middle gap. Crochet 11 stitches using the same method. Pay attention to the entry positions for the first and last stitches. After picking up the stitches, check if the stitch count matches the chart. Finally, join with a slip stitch to the first stitch. Pull tight. The first round is now completed. From the second round to the 11th round, there are no new stitches. Everyone can follow the pattern and crochet as usual. After finishing, break the yarn. Now let's move on to the 12th round. I'll demonstrate the crochet method for the 12th round using a sample. Take the corresponding yarn. Here, you need to pick up the back loop to join the yarn. Draw the yarn through. Then, make one chain as the beginning chain. Start crocheting single crochets from here. Pay attention to weaving in the ends while crocheting. Only pick the back loops for all stitches. Finish this round on your own. Finally, join with a slip stitch. Pull tight. Secure with one chain. Leave about 20 centimeters of yarn tail before cutting the yarn. Up to this point, the right sleeve is completely finished. After finishing the right sleeve, let's move on to the left sleeve. Keep in mind that, on the front piece, you will crochet motif 2. On the back fabric, you will crochet motif 1. The crocheting method will be the same afterward. Finish the left sleeve on your own. With this, we have covered all parts of the sleeves. Now, let's work on the embroidery section. This includes flowers and leaves. There are 2 flowers and 4 leaves on the garment. I'll demonstrate the embroidery method for one of the flowers and leaves using a sample. You can refer to the finished product for the embroidery positions, or you can create based on your preferences. Let's start with the flower section. The 2 flowers are of different sizes. The embroidery method is identical. I will demonstrate the way to embroider the large flower using this sample. The shape of the sample is random. The yarn, color schemes, and embroidery positions are not for reference. You can first watch the video to learn the method, then embroider on the corresponding position of the main fabric. Cut about 1 meter of the corresponding contrasting color yarn. Take out 1 strand and thread it into the sewing needle. Pay attention. When embroidering, don't take more than 1 meter of yarn at a time. If it's too long, it will be inconvenient for embroidering. If it's too short, you'll need to join the yarn frequently. First, secure the yarn tail on the wrong side. Then, come out at the corresponding position. Leave an interval of about 0.5 centimeters. Insert the sewing needle. Exit from the tail end position. Leave the needle in this position. Place your right index finger above the thread. Wrap it clockwise to form a loop. Slip this loop over the sewing needle. Slightly tighten. This completes 1 loop. Repeat this process 5 more times. Make sure the loops on the needle are neatly aligned. Mind that you shouldn't pull too tight here, otherwise, it might not look nice. Then, pull out the needle. While pulling, hold the loops in place. Slightly tighten. Next, insert the needle back into the previous exit point. Pull tight. This completes 1 flower center petal. Pay attention to the position of the flower center. It needs to be sewn a bit tighter. The flower center has a total of 3 petals. Continue with the second petal. First, come out at the approximate middle position, in front of the first flower center petal. Slightly tighten. Then rotate the yarn tail counterclockwise. Insert the sewing needle about 0.5 centimeters away. Exit the needle. Then loop 7 times around the needle. Pull out the needle. Slightly tighten. Insert the needle back into the position where it was last exited. The second petal of the flower center is now embroidered. Continue by coming out at the center in front of the second petal of the flower center. Embroider the third petal of the flower center in the same way. Similarly, loop 7 times here as well. This completes the embroidery of the flower center. Next, embroider the petals. There are 5 petals in the first round. We need to roughly evenly distribute them. First, come out at the center position in front of the third petal of the flower center. Slightly tighten. Then insert about 0.5 centimeters behind. Exit from the end of the thread position. Then loop 8 times around the needle. Pull out the needle. Pay attention and make sure to pinch the loop while pulling it out. Adjust the shape of the petal a little bit. Let the petals spread outward. Insert into the position where you exited the needle just now. One petal is now sewn. Continue in the same way for the rest. Sew the remaining 4 petals roughly evenly around the flower center. Each petal is looped 8 times. This completes the first round of petals. Next, switch colors to continue sewing. Here, sew 2 stitches on the wrong side of the fabric to secure. Tighten the yarn tail. Trim off the excess. Now, let's move on to the second round. Take the corresponding color yarn. I will still demonstrate with the sample here. Find any petal from the first round. Exit the needle at about the center position. Stitch the petals evenly using the same method, except for the flower center. For each petal going forward, loop 8 times. This won't be repeated in the following steps. There are 6 petals in this round. Please embroider them on your own. Pay attention to pressing the loops every time you stitch out to secure them. Otherwise, it might become loose. Embroider the remaining 5 petals evenly. That completes the second round. Continue with the third round. The method for the third round is the same as the second round. However, there are 2 colors in this round. Start by embroidering 4 petals with the color from the second round. The distance for the 4 petals is roughly half of the previous round. Let's continue and finish embroidering these 4 petals. You can see that I've already finished the 4 petals. Now, break the yarn. Then take the other color thread. Continue to embroider the remaining part of this round. Next, just embroider 3 more petals evenly. Everyone, take a look. This is what the 3rd round looks like after finishing the petals. Now let's move on to the 4th round. Continue embroidering with the yarn end from the ending position of the 3rd round. Pay attention to this. The petals here are slightly larger. First, draw through the center of the petal from the previous round. Then insert a little distance behind. And bring out the end of the thread. Here you need to wrap the yarn over 2 needles together. Take the smaller needle. Align it with the embroidery needle. Mindful that the yarn doesn't twist. Then start wrapping in a circle. Wrap for 8 rounds as well. Remove the smaller needle. Pull the yarn through. Pinch the position of the loop. Slightly tidy up the shape. Then insert and continue. This way, 1 large petal is embroidered. You need to embroider 6 petals like this in this round. Everyone can continue to embroider the remaining parts using this method. Everyone, look, I've already embroidered the last petal. Up to this point, the fourth round is complete. Finally, weave in the yarn tail. Break the yarn. This way, a large flower is embroidered. The embroidery method for small flowers is similar to that of the large flowers. The flower center is identical to the large flower. Both have only 3 petals, and each time, the number of rounds is 7. After embroidering, break the yarn and start the first round of petals. There are 5 petals in total. Once completed, move on to the second round. The second round has 4 petals. It consists of 2 colors. Each color takes up 2 rounds. Finally, embroider the third round. The method is identical to that of the large flower. Use the method of embroidering with 2 needles, and there are 6 petals in total, except for the flower center. Each petal will have 8 rounds from now on. Everyone, finish embroidering the small flowers. There's no specific requirement for the shape here. As long as it looks nice, you can also adjust the number of rounds and petals according to your preference. Up to this point, we've finished with the flower section. After completing the flower part, let's move on to the leaves. Here, you'll need to use 2 strands of yarn. Similarly, my stitch out positions are random. Everyone can embroider according to your preference. Here, we only explain the method. First, secure the yarn tail well. We pull out the needle from the flower area. Then insert it back into the stitch out position. Here, leave a little yarn tail, and don't pull it tight yet. Depending on the size and distance of the leaf, insert into the loop. Adjust the shape properly. Then secure the top again. This way, one leaf is sewn together. One leaf is made up of 3 small leaves. Continue to embroider the remaining 2 using the same method. Start stitching out from a little distance below this leaf. Then stitch in. Leave some distance and don't pull it tight yet. Then secure it well. Continue to embroider another one. Everyone can see that one leaf is now completely embroidered. Up to this point, the embroidery methods for flowers and leaves are all explained. Everyone, please finish the remaining leaves on your own. Finally, we will sew together. I'll still use a sample to demonstrate the method. Take out the previously crocheted arm. Thread the reserved yarn tail of the sleeve onto a darning needle. Place the arm inside the sleeve. The slip stitch position of the arm should face downward. Reserve about the length of 4 rounds of single crochets on the outside. Then start sewing. Pick up stitches and sew together. This way, one arm is now sewn. Then weave in the yarn tail. Cut the yarn. Everyone can sew the other arm using the same method. After the arms are sewn, it's time to sew the body of the garment now. First, secure the sleeve in place. Take out the working yarn for the main part. Tie a knot at the end. Fold the garment properly. Sew together at the cuff position. After sewing a few stitches to hold it, pass the yarn from inside the sleeve down to the bottom of the garment. Here you need to sew the bottom of the garment together using whip stitches. Start sewing from the far right side. When sewing here, you need to go through 3 fabrics at the same time. Check the position as you sew. Continue sewing following this method. Now I've sewn all the way to the left side. Finally, secure the cuff once more. You can also fasten the garment with a stitch here if needed. After completing the sewing, weave in the ends. Up to this point, we've covered all parts of the garment. Now let's work on the decorations for the garment. Let's take a look at the finished product. The decorations include a bracelet and patches. Start by making the bracelet. The bracelet is made up of small pearls. First, secure the tail end on the wrong side of the cuff. Then start threading the small pearls. These small pearls don't necessarily have to wrap entirely around the cuff. You can just wrap the upper part of the cuff. Then secure the yarn well. To make it more secure, sew a few more stitches to fix the pearls. Finally, weave in the ends. Cut the yarn. That's how you make one bracelet. Next, let's make the patches. The patches are made up of small metal fabrics and small pearls. The exact sewing position and quantity can be freely adjusted by yourself. The wrong side of the finished product does not have sewn-on patches. Here I will demonstrate the sewing method using a random position. First, secure the tail of the yarn. Then thread through the metal fabric. Make sure the protruding side of the metal fabric faces outward. Continue by threading on a small pearl. Then insert your hook into the hole of the metal fabric. This way, you've secured one patch. Everyone can finish the remaining patches using the same method. Up to this point, the entire explanation for the garment section is complete. Now let's make the head decoration. Here's the finished product. The decoration consists of a ribbon and a pom-pom. First, make the ribbon and then attach it to the bag. The attachment point is on both ends of the frame. Finally, glue on the pom-pom. First, take a piece of ribbon. The length of the ribbon is marked on the chart. Next, tie a bow. Pinch the knot where the bow is tied. Fold both ends downward. Tidy up the shape. Then secure it to the head. You can freely adjust the size of the bow as you like. To make it more secure, you can sew a few extra stitches. Finally, fasten off the yarn and cut off the excess ribbon. That concludes one side of the ribbon. Make the ribbon for the other side next. Lastly, glue on the pom-pom. Please attach it on your own. Up to this point, the entire demonstration of the head decorations is complete. After completing the head decoration, let's move on to making the bottom decorations now. The bottom decorations will be secured onto the garment. It consists of large pearls, ribbons, and tassels. Below, please watch as I demonstrate the specific making method. First, we'll make the ribbon section. Cut a length of approximately 50 to 60 centimeters. Find the middle position. Fold it in half. Pinch the loop created by folding. Pick up the ribbon in front. Form a loop with it. Go in from the right side through the previous loop. Tighten the previous loop. A large circle is formed underneath. Mindful that the ribbon here does not twist. Adjust its diameter to be around 1 centimeter. Leave a loop on the left side as well. Continue repeating the previous steps. Tighten the ribbon. Keep adjusting to form a large circle with a diameter of 1 centimeter. Transfer the ribbon to your right hand. Bring the ribbon from the left down through the loop above. Try not to twist the ribbon. Place it underneath the ribbon entirely. Then exit through the first large circle. Mindful that the ribbon does not flip. Pass it back through the previous loop. Adjust a little bit. You can see there are 3 circles here. We need to adjust the shape and get rid of the circle on top. Go slowly while adjusting. Now there are only 2 circles left. Next, we need to get rid of the excess part of the ribbon. Bring the ribbon back to its original position. Apply a little glue to the end. Cut off the excess part. Use the same method to secure the ribbon on this side. Pull slowly when adjusting. That completes the ribbon section. Next, take out the tassel and the large pearl. Cut a fabric of yarn and pass it through the tassel. Remove the sewing needle. Fold the 2 ends of the thread in half and pass them through the thin needle. String the large pearl onto it. Next, string the ribbon part. Then string the another large pearl. Finally, secure it at the center position of the bottom of the garment. Weave in the ends. Lastly, take out the ribbon and exit through the gap in the sleeve. Adjust its shape properly. For extra security, you can sew several stitches at the sleeve gap to fix the ribbon at the connection between the garment and the body. You can also secure a few places to prevent the garment from slipping. There's no specific requirement for the securing method. Everyone can fasten it according to your preference. Up to this point, the entire tutorial for this metal frame bag is complete. If you have any unclear points during the crocheting process, don't hesitate to join our Facebook group to get supports. Susan's family, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next episode.